To reach financial independence or to just in general get your personal finances in a better place, you have to be taking in more money than you're spending. It sounds obvious, but there's really no way around that. It's kind of the simplicity of it betrays how difficult it is. It's similar to losing weight. You have to be burning more calories than you're taking in order to lose weight. There's many different ways to do that. There's two sides of that equation. You can work out more or you can eat less. The same applies for personal finances and for building wealth over time. Most personal finance advice I find focuses mostly on the expense side of the equation, and for good reason. Often folks have spending that is wasteful or not really fulfilling to them, but at a certain point, you will look at your spending and say, there's nothing more that I can cut here. I'm not a believer in cutting out every single source of joy in your spending, and I'm also not a believer in putting yourself in a situation that makes you miserable to cut your expenses as low as humanly possible. So at a certain point, it does make sense to look at the other side of the equation, which is increasing your income. This is more difficult. It's not as easy as the quick win of cutting out Saturday morning lattes or stopping going out to eat with friends and family. But the beautiful thing about it is there is no limit to it. You can only cut expenses to a certain point. But in theory, you can increase your income to an unlimited number. However, for most of us, especially if you're in a 9-to-5 job or a corporate career, you have to be directed with that effort. You have to be very intentional with the job changes that you have and how you're navigating your career. Over the last 10 or 11 years, I've been able to nearly quadruple my total compensation at my 9-to-5 job. And I thought it might be helpful to hear a little bit about the choices that I've made and how I've directed my career. Obviously, this is going to vary from person to person, and not everybody does the same type of work that I do, but I do feel that some of the elements involved can be carried over from person to person, especially in corporate jobs and similar professional careers. To give a little context, I have an accounting degree and I work in finance. I started my career at a large public accounting firm in 2015, and my starting salary was about $57,000 a year with no bonus. I spent about 2.5 years at this firm, and my salary over that time increased to about $65,000 a year, so about a 6% raise each year. At these larger accounting firms, the year-over-year raises were typically larger than kind of a standard cost of living adjustment type of raise, because it was sort of an up and out culture. You either rose up through the ranks or you were sort of coached out of whatever firm you were at. After about 2 years there, I saw that this is not necessarily where I wanted to be. The type of work that I was doing was auditing for large companies and their year-end statements and things like that. It's sort of a commoditized service. It's sort of a race to the bottom type of a thing. And that is one thing that I learned over the course of my career so far, is that the best way to align yourself with greater salary increases and more pay is to be in a line of work that is considered as value add and has kind of a higher margin associated with it. As we know, most companies are not actually sharing the wealth of what they earn, but if you're in a role that is associated with a higher margin service, the odds are you are also going to get paid more than something that is in a more commoditized service. So after about 2 years, I started looking and seeing what else could I do with my experience so far that was more aligned with value add services and things like that. I ended up landing at a similar firm to mine, but in a different type of work that was considered more of a consulting capacity, and it resulted in my salary being $80,000 a year from $65,000 a year. So this was sort of the first instance of me realizing that I need to direct my efforts with my career in a different channel. My previous job was not easy by any means, but I saw that the bang for buck was not quite as good at my old job compared to what this new job was going to be. The hours at my new job were more difficult, but the pay was accordingly much more significant. The other aspect of this new job that ended up paying dividends later on was that the experience that I gained here set me up for success later down the line. If I were to stay in my old job, the type of roles that I would have been experienced for just don't pay as well as the jobs that I am able to get now and the jobs that I've had so far. I would suspect that whatever your specialty is, whatever type of job you have, there are similar situations where two people may have similar educations and similar training, but one aligns themselves with a certain specialty that allows them to earn more. These are the type of moves that can lead to outsized earnings later on for whatever your chosen career path is. And this is what I think is critical in terms of directing your effort toward what has the highest payout. So I spent about 3.5 years in this role, and starting at $80,000 when I first joined, by the time I left about 3.5 years later, as I said, my total compensation was about $105,000. I did feel that I kind of was burning out on this job and wanted to try something else. But the good news about trying this specialty is that, again, as I said, it lined me up for better positions later. And I was able to land a position making $115,000 as a base salary with a 20% bonus target while also working much less. This position ended up not making a ton of sense for me as a long-term fit. I realized that the company was sort of in a low growth phase, and I didn't see anywhere for myself to kind of go up and advance in the way that I wanted to. I just didn't want to spend too much time there if I wanted to continue my path of growing my salary. And this is just another example of that directed effort. I wanted to align my effort with something that would result in more growth at this point in my career. I could have directed my effort into that role, and it would have been, not to say wasted, because I don't kind of believe that that's the case, but I would have wasted it in the sense that it wouldn't help me reach the goals that I was reaching for. But it was a great experience, and it helped me build my resume. And more importantly, it's kind of established a new floor for my compensation. I had earned about $140,000 total compensation at that time. At that point, about 5.5, 6 years into my career, I had doubled my salary from my starting point. But I thought it was better to go back into client service and see if I can start making larger swings in my compensation. The new job that I landed at started me at $140,000 base salary, but with a much smaller bonus target. I actually ended up just about flat that year because I was not bonus eligible in the first year. As part of this directed effort approach, I knew that in the future, I would be able to have more promotions and higher bonus targets at this company, along with larger annual raises. So I thought my efforts were well spent trying this new path. Again, this is a situation that you can likely apply to your career in some way, shape, or form. There are just certain jobs where you may need to take a step back or make a lateral move at first that ends up paying for itself many times over in the future. More importantly, the previous steps that I took allowed me to have the type of resume that was attractive to this job, which has only helped me strengthen my resume since then. In my second year at this fourth job, I realized that I had a pretty decent promotion case, and I wanted to help strengthen that. This is another situation where directed effort is the best approach. A lot of people, when they're shooting for a promotion, just try to work as hard as humanly possible, be on as late as possible, be the first one in the door and the last one out the door. Oftentimes, companies will be very open and honest about what it takes to get promoted, and they want to hear you expressing your willingness and desire to be promoted. I started interacting a lot with the type of decision makers that would be in those meetings and people that I trusted, and just asked, what is it that I need to prove to be able to get to the next level? Now, there are plenty of companies who will take advantage of this and let you do those things, but then not actually promote you. That is an unfortunate reality of working in corporate America or 9-to-5 jobs in general. It's one of the many reasons that I'm seeking financial independence, but at the same time, your job is to do what you can in your control to direct your efforts towards this promotion or towards this raise or whatever it is that you're working toward. I aligned myself with projects that were able to help me prove my case and show that I was ready for the next level. I intentionally sought out certain challenges while avoiding others to sort of conserve my energy for the things that mattered to the stakeholders that I was speaking to. And in general, I worked a little bit harder that year. I ended up getting the promotion, and after 2 years at this company, my base salary went from $140,000 to $163,000. More importantly, I was now eligible for a much higher bonus tier, which was exciting. This is the sort of thing that I mean, that these directed bursts of effort can lead to large gains down the road. So not only did my base salary increase, but now I was bonus eligible. This means that the effort that I put in was totally worth it. Whereas if I perhaps wasn't so direct and focused with the effort that I was putting in, I might have worked very hard for kind of nothing and not worked on the things that were critical for promotion and critical to getting me to this next level of income. I've been at this new level for 2 years now, and each year I've gotten a bonus in the $15,000 to $20,000 range, and my base salary is now at $195,000. So my total compensation now, with about 10 or 11 years of experience, is just about $215,000. If I take my initial total compensation of $57,000, I'm just about quadrupled of where I started. There are no doubt people who make a lot more money than me, probably grew their salary much faster than I did. But I think the important takeaway here is that no matter what your starting point is or what your specific job path or degrees are or whatever it may be, with the hands that you're dealt, you can, with the right effort and the right direction, make the most of whatever path it is that you're on. You may not get to $250,000, you may not get to $100,000, but what you can do is increase your earning potential as it relates to the situation that you're in. And that directed effort and directed focus will have outsized benefits compared to just cutting your expenses to the bone. I hope there was something that you were able to take away from this. You can absolutely reach financial independence on a lower salary. And honestly, most of the heavy lifting that I did in terms of building habits and building the foundation for financial independence was done at lower salary ranges than I'm currently at. There's absolutely nothing stopping you, no matter what your level of income, but to get to where you want to be faster and perhaps more enjoyably, increasing your total compensation is the best way to do that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to talking about the next topic soon.